Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. My name is Ryan Clifford and joining me on this, not the best of podcasts to one end the week and start the weekend ahead of the derby match, but it was an Almaty disaster. Time for change. Alan and Mark has joined me on this episode. Well, lads, it's you've got to go on when it's bad and you've got to come on when it's good. You've got to go both ways. Some fans would have expected this outcome, some fans wouldn't have. It's been a dilemma all summer about not strengthening. Everything's fine, we'll be okay, we'll get through it, then we'll spend. And some fans have been saying, well, if we don't spend, we're not going to qualify, and it's kind of looked that way. So, but Alan, obviously, how are you, mate? It's not been a great few days. We've had a few days to calm down. Apologise that we were going to come on after the game, but due to any extra time and penalties, just due to availability with the guys doing the podcast, it wasn't feasible. But we are on to go through all the bad stuff, and any positivity we can get, we'll try. But I don't think this is a podcast for Alan. Any real positivity, we'll try our best to not be too irate because you still need to do it professionally. But the last few days, maybe a Celtic fan hasn't been the best, shall we say, Alan. Hope you're well in your own personal life, mate. But Celtic life, mate, no great, is it?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope you guys are well and everyone that's watching's well. Hi, I don't know, it's embarrassing. Like we says beforehand, that if we couldn't qualify against a team that were ranked 311th in the UEFA rankings, ranked below the likes of St Johnstone, Winfield, Dundee United, Aberdeen, etc. Absolutely embarrassing that we can't beat them over the space of kind of 210 minutes and penalty kicks as well. So honestly, it was just, there's a collective blame, as we've said. I think that everybody, if you look at the players, the manager, I think most importantly the board, but everybody's culpable. You look at the team should have had enough for us to progress through that, and it's come back. We've been talking about this for weeks and months. We're talking about how much of a gamble that the board are taking. And that gamble, sadly, didn't pay off. It's come back to bite us. The chickens have came home to roost. You reap what you sow. I don't know how many other kind of metaphors I can use for how atrocious the board and the hierarchy seems to be running the transfer business. It's despicable. And for me, as the headline says, there definitely has to be change. We simply can't accept it. We're now getting into a couple of days before the end of the window, and we're still not replaced Jota, but that's going to be out for the best part of a year since he was injured. Still not replaced Nicholas Kuhn that we brought in 17 million or so for. We're still not replaced Kyogo that we brought in a fair whack of money for as well. And we're 3 days before the end of the transfer window, 3 or 4 days. Absolutely embarrassing. Sadly, in my personal life, you're looking at, I've just stocked up on a load of pot noodles because I had to spend my whole weekly budget on Domestos because my eyes are burning with watching that carry on there all night. But again, we'll try and get some positivity. I'm struggling with that, but we get enough kind of success with Celtic recently, so this is one of these times that we're not happy whatsoever. But again, hope everyone's well, and hope everyone that's watching is well.
Good evening to you all who has joined us. Glad to I don't know if this is some sort of therapy session for you or it's I don't know how you take this podcast, but I hope you're all well. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe the podcast. Please, it helps us a long way. Obviously, Mark, as Alan says, not great. We obviously do need to go through it. I know you would love to be here and say, brilliant, that's us in the Champions League and money to spend and money to obviously keep us financially well ahead and good ties to look forward to. Obviously, listen, the flip side, there probably will be still some good ties in the Europa League, but it's the standard, as we all know, Mark, for the Europa League to the Champions League. We've seen it when Rangers play Man United and stuff. The standard is definitely well below where you want to be, and it attracts players on the financial side, and players want to be there, fans want to be there. So, but all in all, Mark, it's not a great start to which should have been ideally a fantastic week to look forward to in the Champions League. A big game on Sunday, you win that, and the full club is no forgetting about the transfer situation, but the club is booming. You're ahead in the league, into Europe, looking forward to it. So, but it's no doom and gloom. I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. You're still okay in the league, but as a perspective, Mark, it's not a great situation right now to be a Celtic fan considering what's just happened.
Yeah, good evening, Ryan, Alan. Good to be with you and the viewers as well. And the positive is that you get to share the lows with Celtic fans as well as the highs. So you get a bit of comfort out of it and get together and go through what we've went through. And I've been unfortunate to see a lot of lows in my times as a Celtic fan. Neuchâtel Xamax, Wraith Rovers in a cup final, Helicopter Sunday, all really, really bad, but that was right up there. You mentioned that, Alan, humiliation, and that was a fear before. I wasn't looking forward to the game at all. I just wasn't. I thought obviously we had the players that could scrape through, but first 10 minutes, I could tell they were all nervous. They were off. Something really, really wrong. A real malaise right through the squad. And it is to kind of try and make of it what you can. Everybody's, as soon as the final whistle, I was actually relieved when the final whistle went. That's an emotion I've never really had. It's usually anger and real frustration, but I was just relieved because I knew what was happening. We've put ourselves in this position ourselves. The board are obviously the kind of obvious culprits. We know getting the strategy right. They've not changed their strategy, but it's proven now it's unsuccessful with regards to Champions League qualifiers. Simple as that. It's no unsuccessful overall, but the record's plain to see. Cluj, AK Athens, even the Cluj game, I remember they did brought a few players in. If you remember, was it Bolingoli and Julian
on the bench?
Them a couple of weeks before the games, but they weren't fit. They weren't ready. Just again, what's the point? These games are massive. They define your season. And every time we've went through these games, we've just never been prepared at all. It's embarrassing. It's amateur, and there is a way up. I'm no one. I don't want to be disrespectful to any individuals. I'm finding it difficult to actually pinpoint anybody. The team, I've got to kind of lay the blame, a lot of the blame at the manager, but we'll get into that later. But everybody is culpable for what's happened, and it's a big week for us, and it started in the worst way, and we've put ourselves under even more pressure. We shouldn't be under pressure for Sunday. We're 6 points ahead, after 3 games, looking to go 9 points ahead after 4 games, but we're under a bit of pressure because of how we played on Tuesday, what we've done in the summer. And everybody, the way they've conducted themselves, it's the polar opposite of last pre-season, if you remember that. Absolute polar opposite. And we never got signings into the late part of last summer as well. I appreciate we didn't have a qualifier, but the squad, the attitude, the focus was completely different. But as I said, that's something we can maybe pick up on in the show.
I think Alan, as Mark says there, it's absolutely embarrassing. I don't think it's a time as much as you don't want to be irate and swear, but I don't think you can really mince your words, Alan, because like Mark and yourself have said, it's a collective. The players do not get a free pass. The manager doesn't get a free pass because the players that he picked and his tactics didn't win the game in the 2 legs. But it is a massive thing on the board as well. I've actually got a thing from 2018 that Brendan Rodgers says, if anybody can see this. In 2018, Brendan Rodgers says that Celtic should have strengthened before the AKA Athens game. Basically, the exact same scenario as it is at the moment. So, like Mark says, the model that we've done and the way we've worked, it has worked, but in terms of getting us better in Europe, it's not working, Alan. Things do need to change. If that's board members, if it's scouting, whatever has to change, it has to change. I personally, Alan, I do believe that some people in the boardroom have to have been removed or need to take a back seat, and if you want to call it football men need to be involved, or a sporting director, something has to change, because the longer this happens and it's just beat Rangers, it's just behead the Rangers, step out the Rangers, it's okay, we'll maybe get in Europe, we'll maybe get into the format, we'll maybe get to the last or whatever it is. None of that. It's got to be spend, make sure you qualify, and if you do well in it, then brilliant. If you don't, and the manager doesn't get you there, or you don't really do well in it, then that's up to the manager and the team, because you've actually backed. We don't mind, Alan, see, as long as you back the team and you give them the signings that the manager asks, and then the manager fails, that's down to him and the players. The board have done their job, they've spent the money, that's fine. But have they done that, Alan? We've spent £3 million. That team was spent 300 grand, and was it 2 years? You look at the model Club Brugge have got, people going to say, oh, is Belgium really a higher academy than Celtic? Antwerp are decent, Anderlecht decent, years gone past. Is it Union Berlin, SG, decent team, aye, but they've got a better model. Now we see we've got a good model, Alan. Club Brugge brought in 70, 80 million euros. They've spent 36 million euros. How can we not do that? People say we can't spend 6 million, 9 million, 8 million in players. They've done it in 5 players. How can we not do that? I think we can, Alan. I just think whoever's in the hierarchy, they don't want to spend the money for whatever reason that is. We don't know, because there's been silence. We don't know nothing. It is on the players, Alan, and it is on the manager's tactics. We will touch on that. But in terms of the way this, as Mark says, the model, it has worked. Will it continue to work for me, Alan? I don't think so, because in 1992 or 93, we spent 1 million or 1.5 in Stuart Slater. We're still doing the same. In fact, we're going less than that. We're spending 215 in Amura. So how are you going to progress when that's happening? I don't know, Alan. I don't know.
But no, but see, the people in the hierarchy, we're not going to progress, because how do you put this in the nicest way possible? No, I'm just going to say it, right? I've not been personal with them. They're charlatans and dinosaurs. That is exactly what's going on here. No ambition, no vision. I've seen some comments. We might have kind of spent money last year, but we didn't actually.
Here's on Barry's comment here. Barry, hope you're well, mate. Evening, mate. Evening, lads. Absolutely horrendous defeat. The board have let us down, as did the players on the night. But shame on Brendan Rodgers for not navigating his way through a 2-leg tie. I agree with you, Barry. That's on him as well. He has had more than enough. Again, Brendan did come out and say it. There's enough there, Alan, as well. So he's kind of put himself. He has moaned at the board, but then he's saying he's got enough. So I agree with Barry. As much as the board are culprit, some of the guys that we've say are brilliant players, like your McGregors, your Vickers, guys like that, they didn't perform either. Maeda, Mr. Sitter. So
the collective, as a collective, they're all culpable. But for me, the board have to take that number one part of the blame, because that's where it all starts. That's where it's a domino effect that falls down, that we've not replaced certain individuals, that we are definitely weaker than we are for last year. We've went into this game probably our most important financial game of this season. It might be for a number of years, because our coefficients get way down, so we might need to play more qualifying games to whoever wins the league. We've went into this game with the likes of, kind of, without any disrespect, we've went into this game with Liam Scales, with Anthony Ralston, with Yang, with Adam Ida. These players are simply not good enough. at this level. And as I say, the players and the manager definitely need to share some of the blame as well. That there's no doubt about that. But no, if Brendan had been given the right tools and brought in these a bit of quality into that, I would see that tie in that game the other night is it would have been made a lot easier than what it was. It just looks, we've been saying it for weeks and weeks when we're looking at the kind of the front line. You're looking at we've got the cutting edge of a sponge. We're looking at we struggled kind of St Mirren to break them down. You're looking at kind of Aberdeen as well, maybe up to the first 35 minutes or so. I think we were very disappointing. We've not really played well whatsoever this year. It doesn't look as if it's clicking, and I think that's because of a lack of quality that we've got in the final third. You're seeing that when we had the choices going into kind of the first couple of games of the season. It was Marco Tilio, Yang, Adam Ida and Dyson Maida, Johnny Kenny. These players, when have you ever seen a front line at Celtic when you've got these kind of choices? When has that ever been acceptable? I see a comment there. Scales is one of the best. None of the players were best players. None of the players. Nobody for me gets pass marks. We are playing a team that a team you'd played in the pitch. They're a pub team. That's what it's like. They're 311th in the UEFA rankings. I think that needs to sink through to certain folk. We should be well in front of these kind of clubs. You're looking at Linfield for Northern Ireland are rated better than this club, and we are accepting certain players. None of the players played good enough. It was not acceptable by any means. The manager wasn't acceptable, the players weren't acceptable. But for me, as I've been saying constantly, been saying the last kind of few months, been saying whatever, the board have to take the blame for this. We cannot. Everybody was kind of comments were coming through rightly so before saying, that too negative, Alan, too negative. Well, sorry, this is it, come back to bite. This is the realism that I've been saying. And the last thing that I ever wanted in this world was to come on and say, right, I tell you so. But the chickens have come home to roost. This is what's happening because of a lack of organisation, because of a lack of vision, a lack of ambition. It's just absolutely deplorable. It's despicable, and we definitely need change at the hierarchy. We can't continue on like this. We can't continue with this lack of organisation going into a transfer window. It's just it's bonkers. As I say, as a business, as a profitable business, we might be getting run like an elite club, but see on the football pitch when they're bringing in recruitment, we're getting run like the likes of kind of Partick Thistle. Not even that good because they replace players that might be at a lower standard. They come in and replace players. It's far from acceptable, and I think there definitely has to be change. We can't go on blinded with this thinking, because we made some profit on such and such. It just doesn't work. I'm out Thursday night with a few days to go before the transfer window, and there's glaringly areas of the squad in the first 11 that we need recruits. We need recruits in. We need players to go direct into that first 11. It's simply not good enough. I've said that a number of times that we've got so much potential. We're in the best place we've probably ever been financially and set up in our existence. We fail to match that potential with ambition. It's simply not good enough. There has to be change. And for us to say that, we can see with our own eyes how much potential we've got. Why is the board not seeing this? Why is everybody not seeing this? We just all want the best version of Celtic that's possible, and we know that we're capable of taking that up a run or two. And there's no vision, there's no ambition, there's no communication. We don't know why this is going on, that we're waiting to panic buy. There's nothing. For me, it's completely unacceptable. It's gross negligence. It needs called out and it needs changed.
I'll let you respond to that, Mark. Obviously, Barry's comment as well. As the board, as the players, as the collective, as the manager, as a full collective, they've not been good enough. Even for me, Mark, again, people might say otherwise, but even for me, I don't think we've even started the season well. I think in terms of the league points, in my opinion, it's kind of false on how we played. The St Mirren game, I'm not going to lie, I was bored at my teeth at the game. Aberdeen, we were terrible until we get the goal. The first goal, the game against Livingston, the first half, honestly, lads, I've never, ever left early at a Celtic game in my life. I was ready to go at half time. I was bored out my teeth. There was nothing inciting me to be there. There was no attacking play. There was nothing. It was just sideward passing, and then we get lucky enough, the goalkeeper fumbled and Negan scored, and it kind of gave us a wee bit of a kick up the bum, and we went and won the game comfortably. Falkirk was decent. I think the only reason we said it was decent was because of how poor we had been in the previous two games. So, but again, on what Mark there, what Alan says, and what's your thoughts on that, mate?
I agree with that, Ryan, with the start of the season. It's just not been the same, but we'll go into that later. But with regards to the board and the strategy, so I mentioned before on the last time I was on about the strategy, and I've been all right with the strategy up to a couple of weeks ago. And I think if you break it down, the problem with the recruitment for me is the time that they bring in the players for these Champions League qualifiers, because the recruitment got his players in to be good enough to compete with Bayern Munich last season.
Yep.
So your Alistair Johnsons, your Dyson Maid, and Hatatis, all these players that we've recruited were good enough to be put together to compete against the German team in the Champions League, which we shouldn't be doing. If you look at Bruges' results last season in the Champions League, in the last qualifier, Aston Villa beat them 6-1 in aggregate. So that's the gulf with these teams. But we ran Munich right close to the end. So the frustration is, which the board's strategy hasn't changed in the sense that they recruit players at the last minute of the window. However, when it is a Champions League qualifier and they do that, it's cost us time and time again. So it's to separate the recruitment policy, because it's no amateur, it's no, because it's gave us domestic dominance. So could it be fair to say that the signing recruitment is good and serves as well domestically, but then for Champions League qualifiers, because it actually improves us in Europe, we have built up over the last couple of seasons in the Champions League as a progressively better Champions League side. But the signings and the timing of the signings and the recruitment for Champions League qualifiers is killing us. And it does need to change, because there you go, you posted Brendan Rodgers' comments against AAK. That's 7, 8, 9 years ago. And it's been the same story. I referenced Cluj earlier on when we brought the players, but it was too late. They weren't fit to play. I don't think any of them played in the game. Julian or bowling goal. I think McGregor played left back that night.
That's right. Yeah.
And we get beat 4-3 at home after getting 1 each draw away. So again, against teams that we shouldn't be getting beat off. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be go through all these ties, but we should be getting through a large proportion of them, and definitely Tuesday night against that opposition. I don't want to go into that too much detail, because it just angers me that we get beat by such poor opposition. However, for me, there's a bigger problem at play. I think genuinely the bigger proportion of the blame is on the manager. I think the manager's checked out since Munich, and I'll give you my reasons why. His demeanor in this summer in comparison to last summer. So if you remember pre-season last year in America, and again, I'll reference that we hadn't made the signings that he was asking for last summer as well, because all managers do that. They always ask for better quality and all that. But it is a running theme with us in the end of the window. But Brendan last summer was talking about one of his ex-players calling it a Brendan Rodgers team. And we were playing really well against Chelsea, and our performances were really on top. There was a good vibe about the team. There was an energy. Kuhn was reinvented. Matt O'Reilly, who was getting sold, was playing out his skin. And we went into that season and opened the season playing excellent stuff. And then we get the signings in, and I know we didn't have the qualifier, but there was a completely different vibe to the team than this summer. And then Brendan's comments that he's been asking for the players again, but his reference to boards don't get sacked, managers get sacked after the first Almaty game was a bit strange. And I think he phoned it in after Munich because he knew the board weren't going to back him to the extent that he wanted backed. Now, this is where we can debate about this. But because he wasn't going to get what he wanted, that he's changed. Because he knows that the board's going to get all the blame, and he's designed it all summer, knowing that the board are going to get all this. and that's where. So your Dies and Maidas and all that, they're no bad players, but the whole team are bereft of anything now.
Yeah.
So there's no usually a team that's going through a sticky phase is one or two players that will stand up, but the whole malaise is started for me for the manager, and the fact that again we can debate should the board be backing him, giving the players that he wants, but regardless, maybe it is targets that we can't afford genuinely. But the manager should. So he didn't do it last season. He didn't do it last summer. He got the team playing the team that he had at the time, and then it was complemented with the £30 million worth of players, which he still got, and he still got to utilise. And for me, that's what's changed. I watched these. I remember when he started his last season at Leicester, and his results started going really poorly because he had a great couple of seasons at Leicester. He won them in the FA Cup. They finished 6th in the league. And I was really surprised. And then I know they had their troubles with their chairman, but I started watching some of his interviews, and it was the same malaise that I'm seeing now. It was the same disengagement. That's not a manager to me that he knew that Yang was going to start in the qualifier, and that's what one of his options was going to be, as opposed to Jota Kuhn and other players against Munich in a short period of time. That wasn't the actions of a manager. It was angry about that or cared about that for me. He just came out with the generic, I need to get better quality players, and because he said that last summer as well. There was no, so I think he's phoned it in, and because he knows he also has to stay his 3 years, because he referenced that last week, because he says he's going to. He's not, and he says he wouldn't do that again. So that's just to save his own reputation, because he did say that. So I reckon if he was in a rolling contract, he'd have left. So I think we'll find out in the next couple of days what the situation is. When the window closes, and Sunday is now a massive game results wise, because if we do get beat, then there's massive pressure, and if the manager has, and the board might sense this, that's why they might not be backing him, because they know that there's a decision to be made. But I lay most of the blame on him for that Almaty result. There's that he should have had a team prepared and ready to get past that team. All their best players, they're a woeful outfit. They'll lose 10 goals in the Champions League against some team. I've not even looked at the draw. So that's where I am with it. And I think we will find out in the next couple of days what we're going to have to do. And I love Brendan Rodgers. He's one of my favourite Celtic managers, but it's not on. For me, he's to blame.
No, I think you've actually put some good points here, Alan. Mark, sorry. I do actually, in terms of his tactics and stuff, I've said it to Alan and JP as well, that before he left the last time, we were still winning games, but the football was no great. And the window that before he left, the window was, I don't want to say a shambles, but it kind of was. You get Ollie Buck, Tim O'Weir, Jeremy Tojan, guys that weren't good enough to play with Celtic. JP's just said a bit of live news. Ballot Reese's announced a 5-year deal. Sean Farrell's just said the same. So there we go. We can touch on him, lads. Brilliant. We can do that live. So we can touch on that as well during the pod. Thanks, lads. Thanks for letting us know.
Well, the time will be lunch, well.
Well, it means we've got a player for Sunday now, because he's played for Antwerp, so he's fit. So, but obviously, Mark, we'll get your thoughts on the game as well near the end. But I agree with Mark in a bit there, Alan, that he is kind of right in terms of before he left the last time, the football was boring. It does, as much as I love Rodgers, same as Mark, I think he's brilliant. But the same as the last time, the last bit of his campaign wasn't great. His football was brilliant the first year, still good the second year, and it kind of tweaked away. This is similar, so I'm going to agree with Mark. The last few games have not been good. It's not been... I don't care about the Celtic way, right? I just want to win football games, but I want to still be... As much as you want to win games, you still want to be entertained. You don't want to go to Celtic Park in a -2 freezing winter day and just be sitting with a bottle bored. Oh, 1-1, yeah, 1 goal. You want to go to football to be excited, to see players like your Jotas, your Kyogos of the past, even Abada when he was here. The guys that go to get excited. I'm not saying Abada was brilliant, but he was creative. He scored 2 goals. He was... Just look at the game. It was a few years ago today. We beat 9-0. I was at the game away at Tannadice. Brilliant, man. Every time up the park, it was a goal or near a goal. That was, even when Rodgers came in, Aaron, he just basically went on for Ange and he made it a wee bit better. It was we're actually defensively a bit better. And then it's just went to this side we're passing. I've got a photo as well that I'll show you, Alan. I don't know if you'll be able to see it properly due to the software, but it's basically like a horseshoe, the way we're playing. It was like 29 touches it was or something, kind of in their box passes wise. Basically was a shambles. The tactics was an absolute disgrace. As Mark says, I'm totally in with Mark. His tactics for me's got to change. I think he's only got a plan A. And Mark did speak about it the other day, Alan, when we were on, that his system works. But if he's not got the players that suit him, i.e. like your Jotas or your quick, pacey players, even if he had at Leicester, his system fails because he's not got a plan B, Alan, and that's one thing. People say that he changed his system in Atalanta, right? See, realistic, if you look back, he didn't really because we got bombarded with Atalanta. Let's be fair here, we were lucky to come out there at nothing each. We got bombarded, especially in the first half. Lucky enough, Casper and Trusting Scales were really good that night and we defended well, but we were lucky to escape Atalanta, Alan. He didn't really go and play one up front because he still played going forward that free. For me, Alan, I agree with Mark that, especially on Sunday, as much as them across the water are great, we're not in a great section now either. And if we don't change the way that we're going to play, we might still win games, Alan, but that's when you do drop points. We said it last year, the last 6 months, in the year before, when Rangers dropped points, we ended up going ahead and win the league. We were playing okay in the first half or the second half, but no the full game. Eventually, we dropped 2 or 3 games, and he came out and lambasted the players because we're just accepting things, and it's going to happen again if they keep playing the way they're playing. The guys will touch on certain individuals as well, but I'm agreeing with Mark there, Alan. The manager has definitely got to change his way of playing or his demeanour because if he's going to leave end of this window, the next window next year, that's fine. But like Mark says, in a few days' time, hopefully one on Sunday, if there's not going to be a contract signed soon, let us know. But see until, like he says about the players, whilst your contract at Celtic, you put it in. While you hear it, Brendan, as well, you put it in. You make sure you're doing everything you can to make Celtic the best with the players you have at your disposal.
Aye, I get it to a certain degree. Right, obviously, I believe that the manager and the players are culpable for the other night's performance and the performance over the 2 legs of the tie. Should have been. We've got enough quality there to negotiate a tie against a team the quality Almaty. It should be that should be the case. Kind of 99 times out of 100 that we should be taking care of this, but I just think that Brendan, I get what Mark's saying about how the kind of malaise is set in, etc. But I think that he looks demoralised in comparison to the way you see with his interviews just now, in comparison to how you seen him maybe a year or so ago. He just looks as if you can tell he's going to leave. You can tell that he's not been properly backed. He continues to ask publicly that he needs quality, right? And I know that might well be a get out, but if he's saying that publicly, how many times do you think he's asking the hierarchy or the people that he needs this quality in? As much as the manager has to take a hell of a lot of the blame, and the players as well, they need to take that. They need to have a good look in the mirror at themselves as well. But you need to look at the squad depth that we've went into these games with, and you're looking at the squad depth that we're going into Sunday with. Obviously, Balak-Wisha's come in as well. It's no ideal that it's only a couple of days before the game, but I'd throw him in. But you need to look at the kind of quality of the starting 11 that we've got, especially in the kind of final third. We keep naming the same players, but is it really, if we took a step backwards for last year in terms of quality? I believe so. There's other people that think otherwise. Everybody entitled to their opinion. But I believe that when you're looking at the likes of kind of Ralston starting, Scales starting, Yang, Ida, then you've got Johnny Kenny coming on. It's no disrespect to any of these players. Obviously, they've made it a lot better than any of us. So full respect in that. But is that Celtic really being fully prepared going into a season? No, for me. I think you look at the amount of finance that's come into the club over the last couple of years. Fair play that we did. fair play. We did spend some money last year, but as I say, just because a few signings go wrong, does that just mean you throw the towel in and say, "Oh well"?
But see
Because
on
that
that,
went
Alan.
wrong.
Alan,
I know it
sorry.
didn't go wrong.
Last I've got to say, right.
Aye.
I'm gonna just gets in my mind, right? What you said there. I'll let you back in. People say that, and listen, I think he does no good enough, right? If we'll touch on that before we go. If he goes, listen, I'm no bothered, but we still need to replace him. So whether or not I rate him or no, he did score 20 goals last year. Whether or no people think that's good enough or no, he still scored 20 goals, right? Trusty still and Engels, they guys still helped you towards a double, and they still helped you nearly not buy Munich out. So they didn't fail. There've no been failures, and the money that we got for qualifying for the Champions League and winning certain games in that
I think
format.
we can rephrase it by and say that they've maybe not lived up to the expectation.
Aye, no, I can get that, right? But I've seen it, especially with Engels and either. No, listen, either £9 million, probably no good enough. Engels £11 million, maybe some fans maybe say no good enough. No, like you say, no, the lights haven't been brilliant yet. It's no, oh wow, Engels either, right? But have they really failed? Because they've got to the format, they've won your double, nearly won your Scottish Cup, which to be fair, even that performance was terrible. But they've got you money by qualifying and by winning certain games, and because of Nicholas Kuhn done well against Leipzig and etc. in the Champions League, they've got their money back. So they've not actually spent a penny. Realistically, yes, they've spent money, but they've got it all back. So I can understand if it was a Yeti and Barca situation where we spent £10 million, didn't win the league, didn't qualify for Europe, and that's £10 million down the drain that you need to get back. That's not the case here. We've got over £80 million currently or whatever in the bank, plus the Kuhn money, Matt O'Reilly, etc., all the season books. And like you've just mentioned there, we're sitting with £3 million spent.
That's what I'm saying. Is it because no failed because the big money signings that we made last year, because they've maybe not lived up to that valuation? Does that mean that we just go, nah, we're not going to spend that again? We'll go back down to 250 grand, $1 million. That doesn't make any sense. And he has spent 60 million, but as one of the comments says as well, that he's in profit because of the likes of Matt O'Reilly, etc., the likes of Kuhn. We've not spent a penny for a number of years. I think it's over a decade now that we've not spent a penny because of the sales that the finance were brought into the club. So it's just we need to have more vision. We need to have more ambition, right? Just because one season a few players maybe haven't lived up to the valuation, that is no excuse for saying, or if the manager's got to leave at the end of the season. That is no excuse for the hierarchy no backing the club, for no trying to get the best version of Celtic possible, for no trying to improve the quality of players that we've got. Whether the manager leaves next year or not, that's irrelevant. Because for me, and the majority of players that are coming in, I don't believe that Rodgers picks them. I believe that Rodgers might say yes or no, but he'll be presented with a load of players and he'll be like, right, is this guy going to fit into the squad? Is he what you're looking for, etc.? There's a team behind the scenes, whether that be Paul Tidsdale, don't know what he's doing, but it doesn't look like a hell of a lot just now. But there will be a team behind the scenes that are presenting Brendan players and saying, right, we go for him, etc. Maybe it's the case that we've not brought anybody in because the players that he's been presented with are now up to scratch with what he needs. So we'll not know entirely what the case is, but I can tell you one thing for sure. Our business and our transfer dealings this season, and probably the last the last couple of seasons at a minimum, it's been far from good enough. Because you're looking at, is that we'll still get the bare bones of Angie's first season in that team. That's what you're probably looking at. The last year or so, we've still had the bare bones of Angie's first season. That's nothing to moan about, but we should still be kind of backing that up with a bit of vision and ambition. And with this year, you're looking at we spent £3 million. You're looking at apart from Negrin and Tierney, we've brought in the other players that basically it doesn't look like they're going to cut it at this precise moment. There might be a couple of them that go out loan, but as we speak, there's a number of positions that we are far weaker in, and to be a few days away from the end of the transfer window to have been eliminated out of the Champions League with very low level opposition. For me, that's just gross negligence for the board. I believe that, obviously, I agree with Mark yourselves and a lot of people in the comments, but the manager and the players have to take massive blame for that as well. But I'm looking at the start. I'm looking at the domino effect. Brendan hasn't been given the quality that we require to be the best version of Celtic we can be. And that means that these results will follow. Brendan and the players need to have a good look at themselves. Brendan has to, as you said earlier, it's frustrating that he doesn't kind of change it up. There's maybe no get a plan B. I don't like that. I think with Atalanta, there was a slight change in dynamic. There wasn't necessarily a massive change in formation. I think there was a change in dynamic. I think that they were slightly less kind of relentless going forward, whereas you usually see a kind of Celtic team try to push that wee bit forward. I think it was slightly more reserved. The result and the results through the week, the last couple of weeks, are completely unacceptable. The performances that we've seen so far this season for me are not anywhere near up to the level that we require to get through a full season that's got to be kind of 60 games plus. And for me, fundamentally, that starts with the investment in the first 11 in the squad. And that investment has been invisible, basically.
Apparently, me and Alan are held in you hostage, Mark. I've had a comment saying you held you hostage. But obviously, Mark, in terms of what Alan says, obviously it doesn't matter if Brendan leaves or not, or whoever the manager is. This is just my opinion, mate. I don't know if you felt the same or of yours. It doesn't matter if Brendan stays or goes. Whoever the manager is at Celtic, you still need to try and sign the best players with the budget you have. You still need to try and progress the club, because no matter whatever manager's here, once they go, this club will still be here. Fans will be here, the board, the club, the stadium, the training ground, they'll always be here. Players still need to come in and go out, and we still need to bring your best in. So for me, Mark, I don't care who the manager is. What if Brendan leaves next year, so be it. But the next manager has to get back. The next manager has to get back, obviously within the budget and the means of the club, but they need to be back to the best ability, no matter who. I've seen people as well saying that he's not getting back because he might not be here. Listen, I understand that, but surely you can't work your club at that, because no matter who's going to be the manager, you still need to strengthen this team, because you can't, in my opinion, Mark, you can't go, do you know what, Brendan, you're going to be here next year. I'm not going to give you money, but we could finish second next year, this year. I don't think that can happen, Mark.
Yeah, but I think that's what we'll need to wait and see for the next week, what the transfer outlay will be, and then to see what unravels from what the strategy was. He mentioned last night, Brendan, that he doesn't know what his budget is, and I don't believe that as well. And I think that's another attempt by him.
I don't believe that either, personally.
To deflect onto the board as well. So he's trying to make the supporters think that the board aren't even telling Rodgers what his budget is, and that's nonsense. So he's a deflated guy because he's not getting his own way. The board will find out in the next week what the outlay is going to be and what the transfer. So we can, if it's another 25 million all in, we can assess it. They generally always spend money in transfer windows. They always get players in. We always get relatively 6, 7, 8 players in every window. A couple in January. So again, the strategy hasn't really changed. Which changes is the manager and the board. And as I said, the failed strategy of the timing of signings when we've got Champions League qualifiers. So the next week will tell us what money we're going to spend, and then tell us if it was down to the manager, really, the Almaty game. And you mentioned about the tactics. So yeah, the system does work, but it's hugely dependent on wide players. Rodgers' best teams have always been 3, 4 good wide players. So we've not got that at the moment. So obviously they're trying to recruit. They've just signed Balikwisha today. But for the Almaty game, he had to change. I'm not an advocate of him changing. I know how difficult it is to change systems. I'm no one, and I know a lot of managers and good managers have a plan B. You've got to train your team for months, get the system working, get the players in. It's no easy just to go 3-5-2 or 4-4-2. However, he was playing a team that were poor, that had missing their best players, a manager that doesn't even get his badges. So, and we've got players, he could have went 4-4-2.
I didn't know that, Mark. I didn't know that.
I
There you
mentioned
go.
that the other night on the TV.
Gee, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. So, and he never even made any attempt at the end of the game, even in extra time, to fling on an extra striker or tailor with the tactics just to go direct, anything like that at all. When he knows it's his system and he knows he's not got the wide quality for the system to be effective. So, and he never changed it up. And that was the game to change it up, because it was a tight tie. That team, they were spent after 90 minutes. They just camped in for the whole extra time. That's how we get a bit more joy at attacking them. But even at that, we didn't change anything. We just kept playing it out wide and trying to. There was no balls into the box, no long punts, nothing. When you've got to do that, when it needs must, and that's where I go back to that. Yeah, there's something different. There's something going on between the manager and the board. His demeanour is different, Alan, because I think that he's spat the dummy. Now, it could be the board have not gotten the targets that he thought or he thinks that we realistically could go and get. So, but we'll need to wait and see if that's the case as well. But that's the way it is portrayed. I think that the transfer market is difficult. I think the board are sticking to the strategy that we get better players towards the end of the window. There's more manoeuvring in the last couple of days. It opens up. It gives you that. So, to get the quality of player that we wanted to enhance ourselves in the Champions League, that's what we might have needed to do. But it is a gamble because of the qualifier. However, is it with the team we've got? Is it with the £3 million manager that we're paying a season? Is it a gamble?
That's quite a good point, Mark, considering obviously the team that we did have, realistically, as much as it's not the team that probably we'd have wanted and the manager, I do agree, Alan, with Mark, that even without spending too much money, that squad should have been able to beat that team. As much as we should have been more prepared, and listen, I get all that. Me and you, everybody who ever spoke to, even Mark has said it on the last podcast, that we should be strengthening, we should be better, we should be better prepared. But even with the players we had, for still international players like McGregor, I know he's retired now, but he does playing with Ireland. He's come on the bench. Maeda's last season was good. Yang, he might not be brilliant, we'll touch on him, but he should be good enough to beat a team like that. Change Flores and Negrin as well. I know Flores is 34, but he should be good enough to play in that against that team. Engels come on the park. I think his deliveries weren't great, but he gave us a wee bit. Negrin, I thought, scored one or two chances in the extra time. But what annoyed me as well, Aaron, is Mark's bang on there as well. Why did we start going for it the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes? I don't understand. Why do teams do that? It happens as well when you concede a goal. Why does that take you to then go for goal? We should lay on the front foot. I said this before the weekend that we had to get a reaction against Livy, and we didn't need to start halfway. I was expecting a reaction during the week. We didn't get it. Are we going to get a reaction Sunday? Because I'll tell you what, as Mark says, I'm a big Rodgers fan, but listen, I always take a draw at Ibrox, right? I know you don't want that. People might think that's negative thinking, but a draw, start the season, undefeated, 4 games in, draw at Ibrox. Listen, I'm all right with that. But if we go to Ibrox and get beat, that's either 4 or 5 games, I think 5 games, 90 minutes, you'll no beat them. Well, we might be this big team with the best manager, the best players, and the nick they're in, Alan. If we don't go to Ibrox on Sunday, there will be questions on some of the players and the manager, because we've not won a big game since January. Leipzig lost the cup final, lost the 2 derby games, lost the 2 games there as well.
So I seen as well. I think that we played 38 games. I don't know. I'm guessing this off the top of my head. I read it. I think it was yesterday. I think we played 38 games in this calendar year, and I think it was like 22 wins. I know there's been obviously a few of them's been European games, but in comparison to what we've done previously, won kind of every game domestically in a calendar year. we have been a wee bit off it probably since the Bayern Munich game. I completely agree with you that it's totally unacceptable, the performance the other night from both players and manager. There's no getting away from that. We might, obviously, I believe personally that the board should be taking the majority of the blame, but we've spoken about that, to deal with the fact that on that night we should have had more than enough quality to deal with opposition like that. There's no excuses. As Brendan said before the game, there's no excuses. We should have been able to. I think when I'm thinking back to the game, obviously horrible memories, but I think, see, when you look, the park was pretty bad condition. No one excuse before anybody says, but I think that we maybe should have mixed it up. I think when you've seen after 20, 30 minutes that the ball was kind of bobbling when we're making kind of short passes, etc.
Go direct.
I don't think that was a game the other night that was continually you play the short passes, because you've seen the playing surface wasn't ideal whatsoever. So I believe that we should have tried to mix it up a bit. That's obviously that's on the manager as well. But that was just I'm just a guy that sits on a Celtic podcast with hoops on watching games. So it's I don't know the ins and outs of kind of professional football, but it looked to me as if the playing surface wasn't great, and we might have benefited with changing it up slightly. Might not have, but I think Mark's kind of spot on when he's saying we've not got the quality and the type of players that Brendan wants for his system, with the particularly in the wing position. I think you're looking at the final third just now, and that's where we need some serious kind of surgery in that area of the park. I think obviously it helps with Balak coming in. We don't know a massive amount about him. What we're seeing with all the evidence, his profile, etc. It does look like a promising signing. I don't think you could be any worse than Yang. I don't think that if he ever wears green and white hoops again, it should be a crime against humanity. I just never see how that man should ever play for Celtic. We've seen how awful he was in the Scottish Cup final, and we all said the same time. We all sit watching the game in the pub. We're all saying the same thing. So I'm trying to be kind of positive and hoping that we do get a lot of business done in these last few days, because when we look at it seriously, without anybody leaving, we're going to need at least another winger. We need another striker. The left back that's coming in, if you can play both left back and right back, fair enough. But for me, without the likes of kind of Yang or either leaving, without that happening, I think we still need another kind of 3 or 4 players, I'd say. And if they two leave or anybody else decides to leave, I think you're adding those numbers and that quality on top of the 3 or 4 players. So it is going to have to be a busy few days upcoming. I think that's definitely needed so that we get those players that could kind of hurt teams. We're now in the Europa League. We'll see the draw tomorrow. We're hoping that could be slightly more advantageous for us, that we could maybe get a wee bit more joy, but after the performance the other night, we can't rely on that whatsoever. But here's hoping that we could get a few players in. I think that you said earlier, Ryan, about you would always take a draw at Ibrox. I think in any other season you'd be relatively happy. But I think, see, with this hanging over our head that we've not beat them in kind of 4 or 5 games in 90 minutes, I think this is the game that we need to come out and make a statement. I think that obviously we're already 6 points ahead of them in the league, but we could come out and make an almighty statement by kind of getting 3 points against them on Sunday. Let's hope we do that, but I think that it's imperative that we kind of lay down a marker and show over the last few games we might not have been able to beat them. But I think it's important that we come out and lay down a marker for me. I think that's probably more important than getting the draw. I think that any other season, you're right, but this season I think we need that win on Sunday.
I think, like Alan says here, Mark, again, Yang, I've not seen anything from him. People have said that he maybe got something, I want to give him time, but he's been here 2.5 years or more now, and he's not really had that are running the team. You're now going to have to depend on him to try and get you through these qualifiers. I'm surprised it lasted 10 minutes, passing the ball at the park. And for me, Mark, that's the biggest thing for me. I don't mind guys make mistakes, but it's all right for me, guys that played amateur or junior or whatever, didn't get to that level. Listen, that's why you're at that level, because you make mistakes. But they guys are at that level because they shouldn't be making mistakes at that level. That's why they're playing at, i.e. Celtic. But some of the things, even like, I know people say like Scales was all right? But he's passing the ball to Tierney behind Tierney. Ralston was the same when he was passing it behind Forrest, and you're not going to get up the park with doing that. And it's simple things like kicking the ball at the park, passing the ball at the park with 5 yards to your teammate, no pass your teammate. I just thought Yang was, again, he wasn't an all one, Mark, but sitting in the vid as well. I'll delete that, don't worry. In terms of that, Mark, I just think we guys like that, for me, I think it's maybe their time's up. I think if it means the next into stands and next into bench and no play, I think Yang, for me, it's time. If we can get, I've dealt with Birmingham. It's definitely for me, Mark. I think it's time to cut ties with him.
Yeah, Yang for me is just no good enough, even for backup. The Livingston game summed him up. The first half, he was just ineffective. What frustrates me about him is he's no direct. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't get a ball in first time. He's just he shot against Livingston. That was the first time he took a shot. It's the first time I've seen him actually just take on a man and then get the space and take the shot. The keeper palmed it out and we got a goal. And he's just no got that in his locker at all. He's got the odd moments of okayness. He shows for the ball a lot actually. He's all right on the ball. He's got a quick turn. But he's no got any attributes that we need for the wide players. Traditionally, our wide players are good with stats, goals and assists. Again, Rodgers' teams are heavily weighted with players in the wide areas that score more than our strikers normally, and contribute more than our strikers, and actually to the expense of our strikers at times, in the number 9 role. But the other concern for me is the players that I think maybe are at the end of their cycle. And another thing that Brendan mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the 4 years. So you've got Rio Hatate, you've got Carter Vickers, that's the worst game I've seen, Carter Vickers. And I love Carter Vickers, he doesn't make many mistakes, but again, I don't know if that's just part of the malaise, the squad. I mean, guys playing so badly, he's such a reliable player. I know he's got his injuries and stuff like that, but Carter Vickers is rock solid, and he was a shambles on Tuesday. So is that more than just players being off form? And then you've got Maeda and who's the other one with the 4 years? Is there any others for the Ange era? But then that's where we're looking at now. So what do we do with these guys? Is this maybe just the end of a cycle? These guys have been hugely successful. They have been improving in Europe over the last couple of years, and if they just came to the end of that and the appetite, and players are human beings, that's what happens. But then that is the board's and the manager's responsibility. He talked about freshening it up after Munich and after the Rangers game, I think it was, when we get beat, talking about players' appetites waning and not being acceptable at the club. But then surely he should have identified that and addressed that if these guys were only wanting to be part of the team for this season, and that might still come to fruition in the next couple of days. But the likes of Yang, no, he's not good enough to be in the squad. It's simple as that. I've seen enough of him long enough now to know that he's not good enough at all. And that's why I'm glad we've signed that guy today. So he should get straight into the team on Sunday, no questions. And he has been playing, so I'd expect him to start. But yeah, the other players, and then McGregor as well. Love McGregor, but he struggled. But I'll not go into that in too much detail because I think it's more a team malaise in Tuesday and more behind the scenes than individual performances, because they can't all be that bad. The majority of that team played in Munich 6 months before and performed at the highest level against one of the best teams in Europe. So the drop-off's been significant. I don't know as well, that could be the end of a cycle at the Munich. That's what happens with teams. You build up to it for a season or two and you get to your pinnacle and then it drops off and it disbands. But again, that's the board and the manager's responsibility. He's here for 3 years. He's got another season in him. He's contracted to do that. So he spoke about it. But has it been the board that's been difficult with him, or has it been him been difficult with the board?
I think in terms of, I'm agreeing with you as well, like Alan says and you've said, Mark, about the between the board and the manager. I do believe there's some sort of harmony lost. If it's Lowell, Desmond, Chris Mackay, Nicholson, Alan, I don't know. We don't know what's involved. I think we says it as well the other day when we were on together that there's silence, communication. There's nothing there. At least come out and tell us why is Tierney no last 90 minutes. Last time I'm a massive fan of Kieran Tierney, but why do you know last 90 minutes? Come out and tell us. Is he kind of knock? Is he kind of injury? Is it sports science that's taking it to him? Come out and tell us, because we need to know. Why are you paying potentially the highest paid player we've ever had and he can't play 90 minutes? You know, I'm a massive fan of Tierney Allen, but eventually I'm going to go, right, why is he only playing 70 minutes here? Because if he gets injured, you're then snookered. Because we've not got a left back as it stands signed yet until this guy potentially Walker Juniors comes in. But that again, if you go to the ports, they approached us. I don't understand that recruitment wise. Is what's going on recruitment wise there? I don't know. But in terms of like Yang and obviously like Ralston again, depending on him, it wasn't really bad Ralston, but even on the bench, you had Shin, Osmond, Kenny try to get a goal, didn't go 4-4-2, didn't try and go even a flat three up front, didn't try and change it, didn't put them on. Does that question name? Does Poozy come in on Sunday and play as well? Again, change it up. Man City held in high regard. He's no fit yet, apparently. I don't understand how you can't be fit. You're still training. I know you might not played matches, but he can't get fit, Alan, if he's not playing. You can't get fit if you're just sitting in the stands or sitting on the bench. You can't get fit. You need to play. So surely you would then go and put a bounce game on for some of these guys that are not playing. Go and give them game time. But in terms of, obviously, what Mark says there, mate, but I've touched on it and we'll touch on the last bit about, obviously, last bit of the game. But what's your thoughts on that, Alan?
Aye, it could be the end of a cycle. It happens with a lot of teams. I think some of the players that are still there for Ange, they've still got a lot of ability and a lot to offer, I think. But there are parts of the team that I think definitely need refreshed. You're mentioning kind of Poozy there. I'm rather surprised that he didn't get any minutes when the Livingston or kind of Falkirk game.
Yeah.
As far as I was aware, he's fit. He's just no kind of match fit. He just needed a wee bit of time to get up to the standard of fitness that the rest of the team are kind of sitting at just at present. So I can't see him coming in directly on Sunday. If Balak-Misha's coming in, well, he's signed now, so I would expect him to come directly into the team, because as Mark said, I think that the majority of Celtic fans have said for a third year now, Yang, and I know people with different opinions and people say that he's something to offer. For me, for the start, I just thought he's not a Celtic player. So if we start Yang on Sunday, that would be massively disappointing for me. I think we've just spent kind of like 4.5-5 million on this player for Belgium. We don't know a great deal about him. We just know what we've kind of seen YouTube videos. We know we've read and evidence his statistics, his pedigree, etc. But for me, I don't know if you'd agree. He has to start in front of Yang. He can't be any worse. So I would just that's what I'd be going into Sunday. I'd be hoping. I think it might be. We spoke about this today, Ryan. I think that if we're looking to sign a striker, it might be a wee bit late for a new striker to come in and play on Sunday. We're now kind of Thursday night. There's not been any links. There's not been any kind of rumours of any striker. We see the day that Jamie Vardy's signing for Cremonese, newly promoted Serie A team. So I would hope we sign at least one striker before the end of the transfer window on Monday night. But I can't see he's kind of signing one that's going to be ready to come in and start on Sunday. Maybe in the next day or two, somebody could come in and maybe on the bench. But I think if Balak-Misha plays for me, I think it'd be him, Forrest, and probably play Maida through the middle, in my opinion.
In terms of the striker situation, as Alan says, Mark, it's something that I'm massive on. I think we need to. My header for me. I said it a few weeks ago. Can we depend on him again to be like that? Was it a purple patch he had? We don't know. The last few games he's not been great. As he's again isn't one of the ones when the window shuts. He's in maybe to then focus. And I watched a bit of the warm up on YouTube with Boyd, Sutton, and Naismith, and even like Boyd was saying, it doesn't matter if you want to go or you're maybe going to go. You still need to play your best until you go. He was talking about obviously Igaman and stuff, which I think he's bang on. Even though you might not want to play for the club or you might not want to be here, you still need to play your best until, like you mentioned him, Matt O'Reilly. There was a lot of transfer talk about him, but he still performed really well in America. I think he started the league season, still done well, and he got his move, but he was respectful. He tried hard, he trained every day, he didn't spit out a dummy, he just continued, and that's the way I think it should be. But Maeda definitely deserves criticism for that because he's that for me. I don't know why he went on his left foot. I don't know why he just didn't go with his right. His penalty for me was despicable. It just looked for me, Mark, he didn't care if he scored or no. That's just again, I don't. I hope that's not true, but that's just the way it looked. It just went, oh, I'll hit it and hope for the best. The penalties for me, I don't think he even practiced penalties because the penalties were shocking. McGregor's and Engels were good, but again, McGregor for me, I don't know if he's losing a bit, but he's looked nothing like the same. McGregor that we know, I hope he's obviously going to be better on Sunday as well because we need him. I think if he doesn't turn up, we don't turn up. It was similar to Scott Brown. When Scott Brown turned up, we always won. When Scott Brown didn't play well, the team wasn't the same. But I'm really, really thinking in my mind, Mark, that we need to, well, no fans agree or the board agree, we need to go and break the bank if possible. If that means whatever break the bank is, to get a top quality forward. Because if we don't, I do believe it's going to be a long season, Mark. We might still win the league, we might still win a treble or a double or whatever. We might still do well in Europa League. But without a top draw striker, me personally, you can have good defenders and defend well, but if you've no got a top striker to go with good wingers, Mark, I think you'll get nowhere, mate.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you mentioned Matt O'Reilly, and I said earlier on, and that's another difference for me in the way the team's getting set up this year and the vibe that's coming at the team. You know, O'Reilly was on fire until he left, and he was linked to leaving all summer.
Yeah,
and it went to the wire. You know, the guy might have not got his move, but his attitude was exemplary and his performances were excellent. Whereas Brendan mentioned it a couple of weeks ago about guys that Celtic still pay their wages.
Yeah.
You know, a strange comment, you know.
That is, wasn't it?
Aye. In relation to where you are, I don't think that's information that you should be sharing anyway. Because it was about, we never shared it with Matt O'Reilly last year. We knew about the interest, but and it was the usual whilst so and so still a Celtic player though. But no, so I think Brendan's.
Do you think he's saying that, Mark, because maybe some players aren't they doing what they should, i.e. maybe the effort, I'm not saying the effort, but they're maybe not performing the way they should be, and that's why he's saying that. Similar to maybe Russell Martin saying, well, I refused to play, he's had bids.
Yeah.
Do you think he's maybe saying it in an intelligent way that's not putting that across like that?
No, it's deflection tactics for Rodgers. He doesn't want to blame. It's nothing to do with him. It's the board's fault.
Unraveling a bit, Mark, with his frustration and aggression. He might be unraveling, Brendan. You start to see more of these comments coming into his interviews more often. I think it's gone beyond the point of return with him and the board. I believe he'll leave in the summer.
Maybe not. I just think that his demeanor's changed. He's not got the passion. He's not got. He checked it. He checked it after Munich for me, and that's where he's just making these comments because it's designed to be away from him. So it's the players that want to leave. It's the board's fault, and everybody's to blame. But no, if the manager's chucked it, and that's why for me, like talking about Dyson. So you don't go for playing the season that you had last season to the malaise in the way that he started this season without something being seriously wrong driving that team. And then the likes of Carter Vickers' performance on Tuesday and all that. That's a team that's no got leadership now. It's no got anybody really pushing them. Rodgers was driving that team for the minute pre-season started last year. And you've seen it. And something's changed since Munich. He wanted these bigger signings. He's no got them. I think the board's told him they'll get them, but it'll be at the end of the window. And he spat the dummy. And that's why his demeanour, that's why he's coming out with this sign. Is when Celtic are paying your wages. That's you've got to play for Celtic, and that's stuff that shouldn't be coming out at all. He's designing it to push it all away for him, because he can have foreseen this, but he's checked out it as well, and it's spread through the team. The team's not got the appetite now. That's why the performances have been lacklustre, because he's not got the players that he's wanted when he's wanted them. He'll probably still get players, as we've seen in the next couple of days, but with regards to form and players, I don't want to be too critical of Dyson, and he's missed a lot of good chances in the last. But strikers do go through patches. Yeah. Even Adam Edel at in talking about top strikers, there's not a lot of good number 9s in the game anymore. So for me, Dessers is Rangers' best player. They're probably going to get rid of him. Igamani went for 10 million. He had 3 good months here. So Miovski's maybe got a Rangers. He was 7 million last year. He scored 2 goals last season.
Yep. So
where are all these number 9s that are going for 10 and 15 million that we should buy? See if they were in our face. See if they were in opposing teams blowing goals by us. I'd agree. That's all right. We missed him. I'm not seeing anybody. And I look at a lot of the leagues, a lot of the teams, a lot of the transfer fee, a lot of the wages. There's not that many about. So the boy at Norwich can't get a game.
Fitzgarden, yeah.
No had a game. Many Kyogo scored for Birmingham. 1 this season so far. 5-6 games. 10 million quid. Can he score in the Championship? So I get it, but recruitment needs to be far better. But is it a case of these players are really, really tough to actually find? And Ida, I feel really sorry for it. Ida, he's not good enough to be Celtic's number 9, but do we sell a number 9 for 5-6 million when, if there's a ready-made replacement, if there's a plethora of number 9s about that we can go and cherry pick, you no bother, but I don't think there is. So is Miovski an option? Should it have been an option for ourselves? I'm not sure, but he scored goals in the SPL, so he knows it here. He's got a record. But then he didn't do it for Girona. He 2 goals, 17 appearances for 7 million quid. And there's a lot of strikers like that as well, and they go for a lot more, 20 million, 15 million pound, and barely score 2 or 3 goals. It's quite kind of across the board. Bruges as well. I've been looking at their recruitment, mentioned before, but they're buying guys in the German second division for 6 million. It might be somewhere we need to tap into.
Yep.
But then, just a big gamble. If imagine we signed somebody for 6 million for the German second division and he wasn't good, how do you think the fans would be? We bought somebody for the Championship we think is not that good. He scored 20 goals and 3 goals in the Champions League. We hate him. So it's a way up for me. I think we should sell him. I think if we've got the option, I think the fans will never be on his side. I don't think he's that bad a player. I think there's still something to work with there. I think he could be a really good second striker for us. He's scored important goals. But I think probably need to cut our losses if that is an option.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in terms of either. I think as a second choice or a bit of third backup, whatever. I think, I'm same as you, Mark. I think that's fine. But I think obviously longer terms, a number 9, I don't see it. But you're right, Mark. Number 9s they are hard to come by. You've got to do a bit of digging and due diligence and research. But I think, Alan, but once you get a number 9, like we did with Kyogo when he was here, even Giakoumakis for me was good. We've always had a good striker. We've always had maybe sometimes 2. When you go in the past, like Dembele, Edward, Griffiths, Hooper, Stokes, Commons, if you include that as well. Griffiths was there, Hesselink, McDonald. We've always had a line of strikers, even the back, Chiefty as well. Aye. Even Chiefty, aye. Even the backup strikers have always been pretty decent, if you want to call it backup. We always had a revolving door. Even with Kyogo, Giakoumakis. Last year, Ida was all right to my Ida when he was there, but Kyogo as well. So I don't see that the new Alan. I don't see it. We've no Johnny Kenny. Listen, I was where I sat. I was right in front of his goal. It was brilliant movement at the weekend, but realistically, longer term, is Johnny Kenny going to do? Probably not. He'll need to improve tenfold. Osmond, I think she's a stab in the dark. See how it gets on. He might go on loan. Shin, I've not seen it yet. We need to see more of him. Ida, no going to do Maeda. Can we rely on him again? We don't know. I always think for me, Alan, your full game. Again, maybe I'm biased because I played up front, but for me, Alan, you need to have a good striker and two good wingers to obviously help that. But if you've got a good striker, I think you'll always score goals. You might not win games, but you'll always score goals. And it's down to your defence to obviously then do that work and defend well. But for me, it's vital we have a top number 9. How we get that, as Mark says, where we get it for. I get what you're saying, JP, but I get he wasn't an out and out goal scorer for West Ham. As much as it was good for Basel, right, Aaron? It was good for Basel. But see if you look at his record for West Ham, you wouldn't have touched him. Like Mark says, yeah, but I've seen a lot of Celtic fans, especially on social media, creaming over us to go and get Majowski. Look at his record, like Mark says. See if take away Bojan Majowski's name and played in Scotland, you wouldn't touch his profile with Barspol.
It's probably the way he played against us, Ryan.
I know, listen.
Lost a few of defenders a wee bit. I think that's probably how
I think it's because we are desperate for forward as well, Alan, right? I keep talking about standards, right? Standards that we've had in the past and what we're accepting now. Bojan Majowski is never a number 9 for Celtic to take Celtic forward as a longer term. If you want to talk Champions League, to make a number 9 Europa League, make Celtic forward as in, boom, the standards we've had in the past, nowhere near it. Second choice, I would say yes, to come in and play and maybe score your goals and do well in Scotland. But is Scotland the standard? He does well in Scotland. I know we're the champions. That's what I'm saying.
We should be even higher on that. But Mark's got a good point. The markets that we shop in, when a player's rumoured or a player's linked with Celtic, whether that be a striker, defender, the majority of the time, the high majority of the time, we've never heard of the guys. The first thing we do is we Google his name, look at Wikipedia, we look at transfer market, then we take that wicked look on YouTube for the comments that the videos that make them look like prime R9 Ronaldo. So the majority of players, it's why we employ scouts. So we kind of shop the same markets for strikers that are kind of household names. So we're not going to know kind of a great deal about them, but I do think that we should be probably aiming higher on the likes of Majowski. Whether we can achieve that's a different question altogether. But for me, I just believe that Adamida, I think there is people that believe that he scores in important games, but we've had a few important games recently. None of the team could score in the last 2 games. We had an important game.
I don't know if this is true. Sorry to step in, but Stevens says that apparently Anthony Joseph says near £7 million for Ida.
Get that champagne bottle out then.
Celebration, baby.
I know.
So I did see. Sorry,
he couldn't score. He couldn't make a difference in the cup final either against Aberdeen. So these are big games. These are massive games that define our seasons. And he couldn't do anything there. So for me, he's living on kind of a couple of goals against Aston Villa. His first season when he came in on loan, the 6 months on loan, he did score some important goals. Obviously, the cup final was one of the most important ones of him. But for me, I just see when I watch Adamida, I just don't like his attitude whatsoever. I just think he's always sitting out about 10 yards offside, doesn't he make a run, he come back onside, even though that we are pressing forward with the ball. There's a number of times that you've seen him kind of walk down the tunnel after getting subbed. Primarily at Norwich, when he was trying to push for a transfer to Celtic, he was missing training, missing a flight to training, etc. That is not the attitude of a professional footballer that we want to see at Celtic. And I just, honestly, it's just something else. Mm-hmm. And what's called, if he wants a move to Swansea, it might stop him he might not turn up on Sunday. That could happen. It's not turned up any other games this season anyway, so it won't make a difference. But I just think it's time. Whatever we're cutting our losses at, I think we should, because if near the start, I've just not been a fan of Adamida whatsoever. I don't think he was anywhere near the quality that Kyogo possesses. I don't think he was anywhere near the quality we require to be a Celtic number 9, if you know what I mean. Everyone's got different opinions regarding different players, but for me, I just don't. I'd rather see us cut ties with Adam Vida. I just don't believe he was good enough for Celtic to start with.
Touch on obviously Ida, and then we'll touch on your thoughts about the game, Mark, as well. In terms of Ida, if obviously once we'll finish here, we'll be able to obviously go and see more. But if we can get £7 million for Ida, again, I know we digs about the boards and stuff like that, Mark. But to get that money back and get some of the recruit a lot of the money back from what we sold them for. That's pretty decent business, to be fair. You've only really lost £2 million out of them.
Yeah.
It's no the worst. Like we've sold Barcast a Yeti, we basically nothing back for them. So for me, I don't know how he's getting that move, but listen, he could go to the Championship and he could shine. If this is true, obviously we don't know. We obviously live here. We don't know the actual news. But if he does to Swansea, surely the money that we're keeping, I know it's hard to get number 9s, but any money we get for that, Mark, surely a replacement permanently, not a loan deal. Somebody permanently has to come in, and hopefully by tomorrow, or if I don't know the actual deadline to sign international clearance, if it's Saturday morning or Friday night, but hopefully getting for Sunday. But surely we need to go and buy a striker to replace him. Surely.
Well, it need to be 2 if he goes.
Yeah.
Surely we're in the market for a striker right now, as it stands. I'm pretty sure still to replace Kyogo. It's Anthony Joseph is reporting that $7 million with Swansea. So, I mean, business wise, if you make a $2 million loss in the guy, however, I'm still between it because he scored more goals than any Bruges striker last year in the Champions League, by the way. That's another stat I checked last night as well. So that's a club that we consistently compare ourselves to.
Yeah.
He scored 20 goals in the league as well. He started half the season on the bench. And he has the fact that he's not scored big goals recently, but the whole team's been very poor. He scored big goals. So he scored at Ibrox, he scored in the cup final, he scored against Aston Villa, he scored against Young Boys. So if he actually get credited for that, I'm not sure, but he was involved in it. I don't know. Fabio Silva is worth £20 million now. Remember him in Scottish football? So I don't know. As I said, football's changed. I know we've been spoiled, the Celtic fans. Even my son was saying to me the day, we've had Hooper, we've had McDonald, Vinegar, Hesselink, Kyogo, Edward and Belly, all these amazing strikers. And it's the first time he says in his lifetime that he's had seen a good Celtic striker. And that's quite fortunate for ourselves, but unfortunate right now. The boy Bowie at Hibs, actually.
I'd probably say the same for me, Mark, because even when we did, even one of our worst seasons when we had with Mowbray, we still had Robbie Keane.
We did, for the second half of the season, so we did. And Rasmussen.
Oh, I brought him, money.
Big Martin. So, but Bowie at Hibs, I watched him a couple of weeks ago. Don't know if you've seen him. And I thought he looked all right. He held the ball up well. He was chasing down everything. He's closing down and all. That was pretty good. He's a big guy as well. So I don't know if maybe that is a quick, instant switch. $4 million for the Hibs player. And then hopefully still a primary striker target that whoever we're looking for. But it might give us the money to look at different options as well in the next couple of days. But I think overall, because of the kind of fans and the relationship between the player and the fans, he served as well for me, probably best that he goes. And it hopefully, as you said, it gives us more options now and surely more money to be spent. And then decent business. If you're $2 million, it's been all right. He's contributed. His massive contribution was the loan spell. I mean, he did score in all the away games and at Ibrox, the late equaliser. And he was pivotal. The Motherwell game at Fir Park, probably the header when he came off the bench. That turned it around in the late winner. That changed that season. That won us that league. So he's been a big player for us. But I think maybe good timing. Just get things freshened up and changed.
I would say so. I don't think he looks at maybe it's best to go for him, the player, maybe a new challenge as well. Swansea for Admead. But obviously, Mark, you're not on tomorrow for the kind of derby show. What's your thoughts on the game? How do you think it will go? Do you think some of new signings might come in? And if we don't get the result that we desire, would you say that there's maybe questions on if these players are up for these games again, and is the manager maybe not setting the fire light for these games, and as the message actually getting across now from the manager that, like you says, Mark, has the players understood that maybe he's just here to maybe get through the season?
Yeah, it's quite a bizarre position. I don't think we've went into a game like this with the two sides and the positions that they're in for quite some time. Just first of all, is JP at it? He's saying that we've agreed a fee for Lyndon Dykes.
No, I think he's just trying to. I think he's trying to make his laugh here. JP, don't do that to us.
I know. I know what that. I mean, so, he's at it, thankfully. But no, so it is. It's really bizarre, isn't it? We're getting into this game. We have 3 games undefeated, 9 points, no goals against, and we're getting into this game and we're under pressure. We could go 9 points clear in this game. We should be rubbing our hands looking forward to this. And even with the cushion of going to Ibrox, effectively, if we get beat, we're still 3 points ahead with their biggest fixture to take points off us, and we're 3 points ahead. So, but no, there's a lot more meaning to the game. Watched them last night, and they're all over the place. They are all over the place, and that will be toxic on Sunday if they don't get what they're looking for. So it'll be toxic for our side as well, if we don't get what we're looking for. So it's really bizarre, but I'd like to think we still would have enough, just with the disarray that they're in. To take surely the players always, and we get a response for Tuesday. If they've got anything about them, and they generally do have our players. It's not going to forget that. It's hard to feel that way now because of the embarrassment of Tuesday. But these are guys that have dug in, and maybe Rodgers' first season of talking about Adam Eder, the Fir Park game. These guys dug in and won us that league. They've got that mentality, so they are winners. They're serial winners. So I'd like to think that we would have enough. I'm not sure what the team will be. The new signing will come in, which I think will really galvanise and give us something to kind of really boost the team. So he's a left winger, so he'll be in the left. But then if Ida goes, will he be available for Sunday? I'm not sure. If not, then Dyson starts through the middle and possibly Forrest up top with the 3. But yeah, I still think we should have enough to get something. I think probably more down to the fact that they're all over the place than us being in a good place. But if we get beat, that's going to really set the cat amongst the pigeons, and then the window closes the next day. So very eventful.
I think in terms of, obviously you don't even want to think about getting beaten these games. Realistically, I'm always a big person, and these players always turn up, and even though we're not doing well, they'll turn up because, like Mark said, they've done it previously when it matters. I know, listen, we didn't obviously win the last 2 derbies, but in the full grand scheme of things, it didn't matter in terms of the league. But doesn't wash me. You still want to beat them, you still want to win. The first 2 games last year when really meant something, if that makes sense, in terms of the league, and we won them. So this is where, again, I'm a total agreement with Mark here, and they're due to give us a performance for what we've just endured the last 2 games there. Like I say, people are putting loads of money into the club, season books, merchandise, they've fleeced the fans for key teammates are coming back to Celtic Park. They've put up 2 horrendous performances for the Champions League. 400, 300 fans went over there. I know it's their choice to do that, but they've embarrassed us. For me, Alan, the full club have embarrassed the fans who put in the hard-earned money, go support. Listen, you've no divine right to win anything, but the fans deserve better, for me, in my opinion, performance-wise. And Sunday is an absolute great marker, as Mark says. Go out there on the tracks, like Chris Sutton says. Celtic have got it in their armour to go and absolutely do them in. They have got, like Mark says, they've got the players there with the now Balawisha. It could add a bit of freshness, a bit of excitement, a bit of creativity. If we get the left back in, if we get a striker in before Sunday, it adds freshness, new excitement. It gives us, Balawisha, he might do something. Oh, new striker, here we go. That's a wee bit of excitement for the during the week. So, but I'm definitely, for me, Alan, we need to go and put a performance in. Listen, see if you get beat, right? And they've went toe to toe and they've created chances and Buckland's made amazing saves. You go, look, you know what? Unlucky. Best team won. I can take that, Alan. But what I can't take is the performances we've been playing, the sidewards passing, back scales to Vickers, to Ralston, to Tierney. It's the same old horseshoe. Change it up, go direct, go at them. They've got a high line and just go and win the game, Alan. That's obviously, we'll touch on it more in detail tomorrow because myself, Alan, JP, Barry Barnes on was tomorrow, so it's always good to get an insight for Barry on these games. But we have got to go. Just go for it, Alan, and go and show us what you can actually play this attacking football. Go and show us.
No, definitely. We need to show something. Obviously, we'll touch on a lot of it tomorrow. But you're saying we're kind of owed a performance. I think with the level of performance we're seeing recently, I think we're owed a performance 2012 Barcelona levels. So I'm hoping that we come out. I'm hoping with the new signings as well, whether it be kind of the left back comes in before. You would expect that to be announced as well. You were thinking the Tuchel's going to be announced at similar times, but these kind of players, they add competition to the squad, so it kicks other players on as well. So, as you say, we'll dig into it more tomorrow, but I think a win's necessary for me. As I say, I think I said earlier on the podcast, I think we need to kind of lay down a marker. I think we need to look at the last 4 or 5 games that we couldn't beat them in 90 minutes. And I think no matter if we kind of win leagues or win trophies, etc., not in your nearly do I want us to lose any of these games. We want to win every one of these Glasgow derbies, and we obviously last year was like, oh, we're going to beat up, but we still win the league. No chance for me. We don't. For me, you don't accept anything like that in Glasgow. Because you know fine well that you're going to get, whether you've won a league or a double or a treble or not, if you get beat after that, well, you're getting it tight for the next couple of weeks. So you know fine well that you never want to kind of lose the game. So we'll discuss it in a lot more depth tomorrow, but I think it's imperative that we pick up the 3 points and kind of show them that we're back to our performance essentially.
Typhoon says the score. Me and Alan will obviously be on tomorrow, JP and Barry Bannon, so we'll see yours tomorrow. But yourself, Mark, even your team lines prediction, Mark, before we end the show, if you've got it in mind, mate. Obviously, with the signings we don't know yet, but what's your prediction for the game on Sunday, if you shall put your cards in the chest, mate?
Well, if Alan's looking for the Barcelona performance, does that mean we're re-signing Tony Watt? To the place either, probably.
He scored a party first last week, so he's in form. He'll give us all 3 player essentials, so that'll make us better.
That'll really show Brendan. That'll be the board getting it right up him.
No, that's Tony Watt. Cheers, lads.
Yeah, but I think we'll win 2-0. Team wise, I'm not sure. It'll kind of relatively pick itself apart for to see if the new sign is going to start, which I expect him to. Yeah. Although I'm thinking in the midfield, probably Negren, McGregor, and Hattati. He might go with Engels because it's Ibrox. I don't think so though, unless he plays Negren right instead of Forrest. He might go with that with Engels. I thought he should have done that actually in Almaty. So he started that last week with Livingston, didn't he? Negren in the right to begin with.
Yeah.
So yeah, he might do that. The back 4 picks itself, although I would start the young boy Donovan. If Ralston's injured, he looked good when he came on the other night. He was one of the kind of bright spots. Coming on looked quite impressive, forward thinking, athletic. So, but Carter, Vickers, Scales, Tierney, in the front 3 that I said earlier on. So yeah, 2-0.
I do believe we'll score. I've got a few hopefully because like you mentioned, Mark, we all kind of watched the game last night, and I don't see. Obviously, we'll touch more in detail tomorrow, but I do not think they'll change at all. I think Russell Martin's pretty stubborn in his system and the way he wants to play, and I do believe that if we are fresh from during the week and we are all up for it, and the players are really determined and focused, and like Maeda and Balatwisha and guys like that, if they're on it, then I think the pace and the kind of power through them, they should be really, really buzzing for the balls over the top. And I do believe that, I'm agreeing with you, Mark, that I do believe that we will go win the game, but I think it's if we turn up. I think for me, if we turn up, I know I've said it previously, but if we turn up to what we can, with maybe Balatwisha coming in and a bit of freshness, we should go win the game. We've seen how bad they are defensively. We have not been really bad defensively. It's just we've not been able to create a lot of chances and stuff. So we'll obviously see how we go. But to the viewers, thanks a lot. I know it's maybe been some therapy for some people. Myself, Alan and Mark, we've kind of been through a lot. We could have been through a lot more in detail, but again, it's probably going over old news, and there's only so much you can through, and we don't want to go too gung-ho, because like we have mentioned, these players have been good for us in the past and they will continue to be good, hope for this season. But it has to be said, you've got to go through the bad points, and hopefully when we're back on Monday, after the game on Monday, that it's all good points and we're all hopefully forgetting about the transfer stuff, and we're talking about a good victory at Ibrox and a good performance and some good signings. So if you do like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. It does help us go a long way. Any like and share does really help us a lot. We are on TikTok, Twitter, and any social media platform, Facebook we are on as well. We will be back on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Myself, JP, Alan, and Sheffield Wednesday captain Barry Bannon. He will be with us tomorrow, giving us all the insights from a player's perspective. So if you have any questions for Barry, send them in. He'll be in tomorrow to answer any questions on the game, and we'll get his feedback as well. But again, lads, it's been good to chat to you. Hopefully it's not been too bad for you. Hopefully we can have a good weekend, get a good performance at the weekend, and we'll touch on obviously on Monday night as well. But until then, lads, I hope you have a good weekend, stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Hail, hail.
Cheers, have a good weekend.
Cheers, lads.
Sets up Larsson here. Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!